Hi guys, in this video we are going to create dependent drop-down lists with the use of JavaScript in order to improve user experience. So let's take a look at a traditional approach first. It's just Django with some semantic UI elements. Let me select a car, let it be Mercedes, and then once I press choose a model, we see models not only for Mercedes, which are C and S, but we also see models for Audi and Tesla. So this is a problem because we can easily make a mistake and this list simply will be very, very long. So let's change this into this, where we can select a car and we will see only the models for the particular car. And then if we decide to change to Mercedes, we will see only the models for Mercedes. And once we select the car and the model, we will also have a submission button visible, and that means we can actually submit this form. And once we press save, we will have a confirmation that our order has been placed. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so before we begin, let's take a look at what have I done so far. So I started a brand new project called selectproj, and I'm currently in the settings.py file of this selectproj directory. And if we scroll just a little bit down to the installed apps list, we will notice that we have cars, models, orders added to this list. And that means that we will be using those three applications to complete our project. And then if we scroll down again to the templates, here we are telling Django where to look for additional ones. And to be more precise, this is the place where we will keep our base HTML file for template inheritance purposes. So according to those settings, I created a templates directory and I placed over here base HTML. So we will take a look at it shortly. And then if we scroll to the very bottom, we have some settings for the static files. And here we are telling Django where we will keep our static files. So we will keep them in the static directory. And here we have main.js, semantic.js, and style CSS. So those three files we will be using as our static files in this project. Then let's take a look at the URLs.py file. Over here, we have included the static files in the URL patterns, and we have one path for the orders URLs. So we are including the orders URLs to the main URL patterns. And we will take a look at orders URLs very soon as well. And then let's take a look at base HTML. Over here, we have some sections as required meta tags, jQuery, semantic UI. And this is the CDN for the CSS as well as JS. And then below we have custom CSS and JS, and this is the place where we are linking up our static files. So those three files in the static directory are being linked up over here. And then if we go to the body section, we have one block content for template inheritance. So this is the place where we will define our unique code once we inherit from base HTML. And then if we go to style CSS, over here we just have one custom class, MT5, that means margin top 5, which is margin top 5 pixels set as important. And next we have semantic.js. For now, this file is empty. We have main.js. Over here we have only console, hello world, and we have views.py. We are already in the orders application. So this is just an ordinary function view that refers to a template placed in the orders application. And the template name is main.html. And right now we have just an empty dictionary. And that means that we are not passing anything to this template. So if we go forward, we have this main view registered in the URL patterns of this URLs.py file inside of orders application. So this is it. And then we have main.html. Here we are inheriting from base HTML, and in the block content we are just placing hello world. And then we have some models beginning from the cars. Over here we have a class car with two fields, the name of the car and the country. So for example, we will have an object Audi and the country is Germany. Okay, we will have also Mercedes. The country will be Germany as well, and then we will have Tesla, and the country will be USA. So this is for the cars, and then we will have the model of the car. So we are linking it up with a foreign key over here, and then we need to place the model name. So in case of Audi, we will have Audi A3, A4, and in case of Mercedes, we will have C-Class, S-Class, and then in case of Tesla, we will have Tesla 3 and S. So this is in terms of models, and then we have orders. So here we are linking up the car and the model by the foreign key, and we are going to place an order, and as the string representation, we are just going to return the primary key. And we've registered all these classes in the admin PY, so we can actually see it in the admin. And this is basically it. So we can right now start working a little bit more on our main HTML. But before we actually do that, let's take a look at the end results. So here in the browser, we have hello world, and in the console, hello world, and we are in the main path. And then if we take a look at the admin, so here we are in the models, we have created 6 objects, and then we have cars. Here we have 3 objects, Tesla, Mercedes, and Audi. And then in the orders, we have none objects. We don't have any object over here. So right now we can return to our code editor, and let's jump directly into main HTML. Let's delete hello world, and let's create inside the block content our main form. So this is going to be form, let's give it a class of margin top 5. And I'm also going to set an ID, and I'm going to set it to simply car form, or yeah, let's just keep it like car form. All right, so I'm going to close off the form, and inside I'm going to put in the CSRF token, and then below the CSRF token we are going to grab some code from Semantic UI. So let's jump to Semantic UI. The link is in the description. Let's go to modules, drop down, and then we need to simply select a drop down that is interesting for us. So I'm going to grab one of the first ones, and yeah, this is the code that I want. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to place it over here. Okay, so we need to indent this a little bit, and there it is. So let's save this and let's see how this looks right now. So I'm going to hit enter, refresh, and here is our form. However, it doesn't actually work. So in order to have this working, we need to provide some JavaScript, to be more precise, jQuery in the Semantic JS. So we can actually jump to the documentation and search for this particular code. So I'm going to press Command F, and I'm going to put in a $sign. So this is it. However, this won't actually work the way we want it to. So let me just copy and paste it over here. Let's save this, and then let's go back, hit refresh, and there it is. But the problem is that it basically opens up every time we reload the page, and we want to have it working on a click. So once we decide to click on this particular dropdown, we want to see all the options. And in order to change this, we need to get rid of show, and here we need to set force selection to false. And right now, if I save this, hit refresh, it works the way we want it to. So we have this problem figured out, and this problem has been solved. So let's continue working on our main HTML, because we actually don't want to refer to gender and to male or female. We want to have the cars over here. So we want to have Audi, Mercedes, and Tesla. So what I'm going to do over here is to first of all provide an ID, and this is going to be cars. The name I'm going to change for this input type hidden to car, and then the default text will be choose a car. And here, let's just get rid of this, or I'm going to delete one of the divs, and this one will be used for the for loop. So let's do the traditional approach first. I'm going to go to views.py. Over here, what I'm going to do next is to create a query set, and in order to do that, I need to go to cars.models, and from there we need to import the car, and this QS will be car objects all. Okay, and we can pass to the template this QS. So as the key QS, we are assigning the value of QS. Let's save this. Let's go back to our main HTML, and over here, let's put in a for loop for item in the QS. Let's take this over here. Maybe let's change item to car, and the class will remain item. However, the data value, let's just put in over here car, and here we will put in the car name. So we want to see the car name in the browser. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and I'm going to hit refresh. So we have choose a car, and then we have Audi, Mercedes, and Tesla. So this is working. However, this is the traditional approach. So we want to actually use JavaScript in order to get this data and simply reference this menu div and put in some options. So what we can do is to provide an ID over here as well, and this is going to be cars data box, and then I'm going to get rid of this for loop, or I'm going to comment it out. So now if I save this, hit refresh, we actually can't click on it. We don't see any options. And as the next step, we are going to create a view where we are going to simply return a JSON response with the car data, and then we are going to bring it into this cars data box with the use of JavaScript. So we are going to simply recreate this particular div over here with the use of JavaScript. So yeah, I hope it will be obvious once we do it. So in order to begin, let's jump into the views.py file, and over here, as mentioned before, we need to have an additional view. So let's create a function view, and let's call this get JSON car data, something like this, and this will take in a request. And over here, what we are going to do is to define a variable. I'm going to call it QS.json, or let's just put in QS val, and this is going to be car objects, and we want to grab the values, and we want to put them into the list. So right now, we are able to actually return a JSON response, which we need to import. So from not dot, but Django HTTP, we want to import the JSON response, and here we can return JSON response, and let's create a key data, and to this key data, let's assign this QS val. Okay, so as the next step, we need to register this get JSON car data. So I'm going to save the views.py file, jump into the URLs, and here let's import this JSON car data. And in the URLs, let's create a new path that I'm going to, let's just put inside cars JSON, something like this. And then we need to bring in the view itself, so get JSON car data, and also let's set the name to be equal, let's say car JSON. So the most interesting part over here is this one, cars JSON from the path, because we are going to copy it, and in the main.js, we are going to use it. So I'm just going to put it like this as a comment, and here we are going to apply ajax, and this is going to be type get, we want to get the data from URL that is going to be this one, cars JSON. So I'm going to cut it over here, from here, and put it in this place. So this is it. And then let's define what will happen on success. So we will have a function that takes in a response, and we want to console log the response. So here we should have the data that we have in our views. So we are returning a JSON response with the key data, and to this data we are assigning Q as val, and over here we should actually see those data. And if something goes wrong, we will have an error, and this is also going to be a function that takes in an error, and we are going to console log the error. All right, so let's save this and let's try this out. I'm going to refresh, and something didn't go the way it should, so we have not found. Let's go to URLs of orders. It hasn't been saved. This is the reason. So I forgot to save this file, and I'm going to save it right now, and I'm going to hit refresh, and as you can see, here is the data. So to be for this to be more visible, I'm going to jump back to our main.js, and I'm going to console log the response.data. So as you remember, in the views PY, we are having this key data, and this is the Q as val. So I'm going to access this key to see directly the data that is returned in this variable. So let's hit refresh, and this is it. So we have 3 objects, country Germany, ID 1, name Audi, then we have Mercedes and Tesla. So the challenge right now will be to grab the name, and then those names put into this dropdown, okay? So let's do this right now. And in order to do that, we need to head to main.js, go to the success section, and here we are going to create a variable called cars data, and we are going to this variable assign response data. And as the next step, we are going to loop through this cars data. So cars data, and we are going to use a map method for this, and we are going to grab a single item, and yeah, we need to create a div as the first step, because in the main HTML over here we have a div. So as mentioned before, we need to recreate this. We need to have a div with a class item, data value, and the car name. So this is something that we need to do in JavaScript. So as the first step, let's create a variable option, and this is going to be our div. So let's put in document create element div. Okay, so let's right now refer to this option and set the text content. So here we want to display in the dropdown the name. So I'm just going to put in item and access the name field. As the next step, we need to set some attributes for the class and the data value. So I'm going to put in option set attribute, and first let's do the class, and this is going to be item, and then option set attribute, and here we are going to put in data value, and this is going to be the item name. And finally, we need to take this option and put it inside the cars data box. So first of all, let's grab this cars data box, and let's create a const cars data box, and let's grab this by document get element by ID, and we need to put in cars data box. So right now we can reference this cars data box over here. And to cars data box, we need to put in append child and pass in this option. Okay, so let me save this and let's see if this will work or we did something wrong. So let's click on this, and as you can see, we have all the three options. So as the next step, what we need to do is to execute some function once we change the value of this dropdown. So in order to do this, we need to actually go back to main HTML and grab this UI selection dropdown by its ID. So here we have cars. So let's call this maybe const car input, and this is going to be document get element by ID, and let's put in cars. Okay, so once we have this, we can actually go all the way down and here put in car input, and then we want to add an event listener, and we want to listen on the change event. And if this is the case, we will execute some function. And for now, what we can do is to simply console log changed to see if this is actually working. So I'm going to save this, hit refresh, and as you can see, we have changed over here. Mercedes changed, Tesla changed, but then if we select Tesla again, nothing happens. So this works once we change the value of the dropdown. Okay, so if we go a little bit further, and if we, instead of changed, display the target value, let's see what we will have. Audi, Mercedes, and Tesla. So we can create a const which is selected car that will be equal to the target value. Okay, and once we have this, we could actually start working with Ajax again, but again we will need a proper view for this. So in order to set the proper view, we need to head over to views py, and then I'm just going to go below and here put in another function view, which is going to be get json model data, and this will take in not only the request but also args and keyword args. So I'm going to put in a variable called selected car, and we are going to get it from the keyword arguments. So stay with me for a few seconds. I'm going to put in quarks get, and then I'm going to set it as car. And to explain this, we need to go to the URLs py file, and let's bring in this function. So we want to go to get JSON model data, and let's register it, and I'm going to explain what is going to happen over here. I'm going to copy this and paste it below. So first of all, we want to change get JSON car data to get JSON model data, and here instead of cars JSON, we want to have models JSON and models JSON in the name, but also over here we will put in a str car, and this is what we want to get. Okay, so this is what we will need, because this will be actually the selected car. So based on the URL, we will get the car from over here. So let me save this, and we are going to set it in the JavaScript in just a second. But right now what's important is that we are getting the selected car and storing it in the selected car variable. So as the next step, we can actually create obj models variable, and this is going to be also a list where we will have models. So we need to import models from models models, we want to import model, and over here it is going to be model and objects filter, and we want to reference the car name, which is going to be set to the selected car. Okay, and in order to pass it as a JSON response, we want to grab the values. Okay, so this is ready, and below we can actually return a JSON response. So let's do this. Return JSON response, and here also as the data, let's assign to this data key this obj models value. All right, so this is registered because we have it set in the views PY as well in the URLs PY, and now we have to actually use it in the JavaScript. So I'm going to grab this models JSON because this is going to be the part of our URL, our new URL in our new ajax. So over here, let's actually begin working with this ajax. So as ajax, $Ajax, and this is going to be also a type get. And here in the URL, we are going to set it as models JSON, and then slash, and actually we need to use backticks for this because we want to inject this selected car. So $, curly bracelets, and selected car, and let's close it. So here we are passing this selected car, so later we can actually get it in the views PY from the keyword arguments over here, okay? Because in the URLs PY we are expecting this car. So this is what we are doing over here. And then what we need to do is to define a success. So over here, for now, we are going just to have a function with a response, and let's console log the response, and I forgot about the comma over here. And then on error, we are going to have a function which takes in an error, and let's also console log error. Okay, so let's check this out. I'm going to save this, hit refresh, choose a car, Audi, and we have something over here. So what is it? We have A3 and A4. So this is working. If we, let me just console log response data, it will be more readable this way. And let's do this one more time. Audi, and here we have A3 and A4 as the name. Let's jump into Mercedes. So here we have C and S, and then if we choose Tesla, we have a name as Model 3 and Model S. So this is working. And to bring in those model names, we actually need to have another dropdown. So what we need to do is to jump back into main HTML, and I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to paste it below, and yeah, we are going to do some adjustments. So first of all, over here we are going to have models as the ID, and the name is going to be model. Then we will choose not a car but a model, and this is not going to be cars data box, but it's going to be models data box. It's going to be models data box, and I'm going to get rid of this comment, and we are going to load the data into the models data box. Okay, so now we can return to our main.js. Actually, we can check how this looks like. So now we have choose a car and choose a model, which doesn't work just yet. Okay, so let's jump back to main.js, and we will not only have right now cars data box, but we are also going to have a models data box and a model input. So I'm going to copy those two. And over here, I'm going to do some adjustments. This is going to be models data box, and here it's going to be models data box, and this is going to be model input, and here it's going to be models. All right, so having this, we can actually continue working on the success. So again, what I'm going to do is to create a const that is going to be models data, and I'm going to assign to this variable response data. And again, we are going to run a map method on this models data, where we are going to grab a single item, and the first thing is to again create the div. So actually I can copy all of this and paste it over here, but instead of cars data box, we want to reference the models data box, and we want to use append child on the option. Okay, so let's save this and let's see how this works. So I'm going to select Audi, and then we have Audi A3. If I go to Mercedes, the problem right now is that although we selected Mercedes, we still see A3, and this might lead to some errors because there is no A3 model in the Mercedes cars. So if we now unroll this drop down, we will see that we not only have the models for Audi, so we not only have the models for our previous choice, but now that we selected Mercedes, we also see the models for the Mercedes cars. So this is something that we need to change. And in order to do that, let's jump back into our main.js file. Below, what I'm going to do is to access the models data box in our HTML, and I'm just going to reset it. So once we have a change in the car input, we are going to reset this models data box. And as the next step, we need to go to main HTML, and this is the place where we have this default text. And yeah, we want to also access this. So I'm going to give it an ID, and this is going to be model text. And then I'm going to save this and jump back to our main.js. And at the top, I'm going to maybe somewhere over here, I'm going to create a const model text, and this is going to be document get element by ID, and let's put in this model text. All right, so now we can go up here and access this model text, and what we are going to do is to refer to text content and set it to choose a model. Okay, so let's see how this works. So I'm going to save this, hit refresh. I'm going to select Audi A3 and then change it to Mercedes, and here we have only C and S. However, this choose a model is, yeah, it's not grayish, it's black, so it's missing a class and it's missing a default class. So to fix this, we need to add this default class. Okay, so in order to do that, let's just put in below model text class list add, and we want to add default. So now if we save this, refresh, let's try it one more time, Audi A3, and then let's select Mercedes, and here it is, choose a model, C and S. So this is working perfectly. And before we actually proceed to creating another Ajax, this time with the type posts, so we can actually create orders in the database, let's create 2 additional divs for the alerts and for the button that will submit this form. So in order to do that, what we are going to do is to simply go to our main HTML file, and then above the form, I'm going to create a div for the alert. So this is going to be a div with the ID set to alert box, and let's close it off. And then below, what we are going to do, below the UI selection dropdown for the models, we are going to create a div for the button box. So let's do this. Div with the class equal to, actually not the class, but the ID set to btn box, and the class will be margin top 5, and then inside of this div we are going to put in the button. So let's make it a blue button. So this is going to be a button, of course, with the type submit, with the class set to UI primary button, okay, and let's put in save, and let's close off the button. Okay, so let's see how this looks right now. And here we have choose card, choose model, and this save button. So maybe we can actually make this button to not be visible, and we want to show it once we have the selection completed. So once we select a car and we select a model, we should actually see this save button. So in order to do that, I'm going to access style CSS, and here I'm going to create another class, not visible, and this is going to be display, and not block, but display none. And right now I'm going to copy this not visible class to, of course we need to save the style CSS, and we are going to copy this not visible class to our main HTML, and we are going to apply it in the btn box. So right now, if we save this, hit refresh, let's clear the cache, and there it is. So we have two drop downs, but without the button, okay? And now we need to add some logic to actually show this button once we have the selection completed. So we need to refer to this choose a model, because once we change the value of this drop down, we should see the button box. So to be more precise, we should remove the not visible class from our button box. And in order to do that, let's actually grab the button box and, by the way, the alert box. So I'm going to create two variables, the btn box and the alert box. And first of all, let's do the button box. This is going to be document get element by ID btn box, and here below we will have the alert box set to document get element by ID alert box. So we will work on the btn box first, because we need to go to our car input add event listener, and we need to access success, and over here we are going to continue working on the logic. So to be more precise, we are going to add an event listener on the model input. So let's put in model input add event listener, and it's going to be again change, and over here what we are going to do is simply btn box and then access the class list, and as mentioned before, we need to remove the not visible. So let's see if this is actually working. I'm going to save this, hit refresh, let's choose a car, A3, and there is the save button. So this is working perfectly. So right now we can actually focus on submitting this form. Once we select a car with a particular model, we press save, the form should be submitted and an order should be created in the database. And once we succeed, and this actually happens, we should see a green alert box with a confirmation that a new order object has been created. If something goes wrong, we should see a red alert box with a notification that something went wrong. And in order to begin, we need to go to our main HTML and we need to access this car form. So in the main.js file, let's go to almost the top. Let's put in here a new const car form, and this is going to be document get element by ID car form. And we want to listen on a submission on this car form. So at the bottom of the page, let's put in car form and let's add an event listener. The event that we are listening to is the submit. And if this is the case, if this form is submitted, let's put in prevent default, event prevent default. And for now, let's just console log. Let's console log, for example, submitted. Okay, so we're not doing anything over here. We are not creating any objects. We just want to see this submitted without the page to be reloaded. So I'm going to save this. Let's hit refresh. Let's select the car. Let's press save, and there it is. It's submitted. Okay. So as the next step, we actually need to create a view so we can apply this logic. So again, we need to jump into orders to the views.py file, and below we are going to create another function view that is going to be called create order, and this will take in a request. So here we are going to ask if the request is ajax. And if this is the case, we are going to grab the car, which is going to be request post get car. And then having this car, we can actually grab the car obj. So what I'm going to do over here is to define another variable called car obj. And this is going to be car objects get. And we are going to get it by the name, and to the name we are going to assign this car. And then we need to do the same thing for the model. So the model is going to be request post get, and over here we are just going to put in the model, and we are going to send those data very soon in the JS file. So we don't have this model and car just yet, but we are going to add it to our ajax. But for now, let's focus on the logic, and I'm going to return to this view in a few seconds. And let's grab the model obj the same way we grabbed the car. So this is going to be model, and then objects get, and we want to get it by the name. So over here, the name is going to be set to the model. And finally, we can write down order. We need to bring in the order. We already have the car, the model, but we also need to grab the order. So from .models, we want to import the order, and over here, let's just write order, and then objects create, where the car is going to be the car obj, and where the model is going to be the model obj. And then we can return a JSON response that will contain a key create, and we are going to assign to it true. And then in other case, we are going to return a JSON response, and here we are going to put in create, or maybe created, it will be better, created to false. And here we can also put in safe is equal to false. Okay, so by accident, if we access this path that we are going to register in just a second in the URLs, we will see created false. So I'm going to save this, and now I'm going to focus on registering this create order. So we need to jump into our URLs PY. we are going to bring in this create order. Let me reorganize this a little bit. So just give me a second, please. Okay, and let's close this. So here are our views, and we are going to create another path, and I'm just going to call it create. To this create, we are going to put in the create order function view, and the name is going to be create order. Okay, so right now we can focus on finishing this logic over here, and yeah, let's put in $ajax, and as mentioned before, this time it's going to be type post, and the URL is going to be the one that we registered in just a second. So let's put in create, and then we will have the data. But in order to fill this out, we actually need to have some additional elements. So if we go to main HTML, here we have the model text, and we will need to have car text as well. So I'm going to copy this ID, and I'm going to place it over here. And this is not going to be a model text, but a car text. And then in the main.js, where we have the model text, let's also provide the car text. So this is going to be car text and car text. Okay, we also have a CSRF token, so we need to grab this as well. So I'm going to create const CSRF, and this is going to be document, and then we are going to get elements by name, and over here we need to focus not to make any mistake. CSRF middleware token. So I explained how this works in previous tutorials in this series, so I'm not going to go deep into this, and we are going to simply focus on sending the data right now. So first of all, we are going to put in the CSRF middleware token. So here, let's put in again CSRF middleware token, and to this key we are going to assign CSRF value. All right, then we will have the car. We are expecting in our views the car and the model. Okay, so we need to include it in this data dictionary. So as the car, we will have the car text and text content, and as the model, we are going to have model text and text content. Okay, so this is for the data. And right now we need to define the success. Again, we will have a function with a response, and I'm just going to put in, as always, console log response for now. And on error, we are going to also have a function with an error, and again we are going to console log the error. All right, so what we are going to do next is to access the alert box. So alert box inner HTML, I'm going to use backticks, and we are going to do it in both cases, for the success and for the error. So we need to jump into Semantic UI and find alerts. So where are alerts? In the Semantic UI it's called message, and it's in the collections, and I'm going to go with maybe with this one. So just going to grab the code from over here, and I'll begin with the success. I'm going to get rid of the close icon, and I'm going to do some indentation, and there it is. So right now I'm just going to copy this and apply it also for the error. And yeah, over here we will not have positive but negative. So the alert box will be not green but red. Okay, so in the header, in the success, we will have maybe simply success, and let's put in the paragraph, your order has been placed. And then over here in the header, let's put in oops, and in the paragraph, let's put in something went wrong. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and let's refresh. Audi A3 save, and here is success. Your order has been placed. We have confirmation that it has been created, so let's jump into the orders, and there it is. We have Audi, model Audi A3. So let's select another one, Mercedes, but then we still see this success. So maybe once this is changed, this value has been changed, we should actually reset this alert box. And in order to do that, we just need to go to the car input, where we have the add event listener on change, and we are just going to place alert box inner HTML, and let's just reset it, set it to blank. So let's try this one more time. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to choose a car Audi, choose a model A4 this time. I'm going to press save, and then I'm going to select Mercedes. As you can see, the alert is gone. I'm going to select an S-Class, press save, and then we have oops, something went wrong. So we need to investigate what is the issue over here. So I'm back in the Django administration, and the problem is that we have Mercedes and Tesla that have the same model, S and S, okay? So let's actually see what this means. I'm going to print out the car, and I'm also going to print out the model. All right, so right now, if I save this, go back, I'm going to select Mercedes and S, and then I'm going to save. We have this error, and here we have get returned more than one model, so it returned 2. And here we have Mercedes as the car, and below we have S as the model. So instead of doing it this way, what we need to do, the problem is over here, okay? We have this model, and we are grabbing it by name, and this is not the right case. So we can't actually grab it like this. We need to actually not only put in the name, but also the car. So let's make this a little bit more precise. So I'm going to put in the car and name, and we are going to set it to the car obj.name. And let's see if this will help us out. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to hit refresh, Mercedes S, save, and this time it has been successfully saved. So let's go to the orders, and there it is. So we have Mercedes, Mercedes S, and then if I go to Tesla and choose the S model, I'm going to save it, and there we have it again. So we have saved Tesla S, and to prove this, let's check it out. and there it is, Tesla, Tesla S. Alright guys, so I think we can finish off over here. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and hopefully we will see each other soon. Take care, have a great day, and bye-bye.